Let's get more now on that report by MPs, which has described Muslim women as the most economically disadvantaged group in Britain. The All-Party Women and Equalities Committee says that ministers should introduce a coherent plan to tackle the problem before the end of the year.
Here we go again. The promotion of another government programme. Because government programmes are always a steaming success.
Well, the government said that 45% more Muslim women are in work than they were 5 years ago, but agreed that there is much more to do.
And yet the BBC keeps telling us that immigrants work harder than UK nationals. Well, apparently not, according to the BBC.
Well, with me now is Jo Swinson, who's the chair of the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development Policy Forum and a former business minister. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your reaction, first of all, to what this report is saying, both about the figures and what it wants to see done?
Well, I think it's an important report that draws attention to a real and genuine problem in our society and in our workplaces.
Yeah, she's talking about the 65% of Muslim women that are unemployed that we know about, and the 35% of Muslim men that are unemployed that we know about from the report.
There's a huge mine of untapped talent that British businesses and organisations are missing out on by not making sure this discrimination is tackled.
A huge mine of untapped talent. We could talk about the untapped talent if you want. I mean, you've got a bunch of Muslim students up there working very hard. That's great. But can we talk about the quarter of Muslim women that can't speak English? The ones that we know of. Never mind read or write. Or the fact that they refuse to do some jobs working with meat products and alcohol and having to conform to halal rules in Islam. Nor are they, by Islamic traditional standards, allowed to work with men. And usually have strong religious values of staying at home and raising 15 kids. It states in the Quran that the man should provide and the woman stay at home to raise the children. Then there's the burqa issue, something some employers wouldn't look favourably on, especially working on the till or at the checkout, customer service, reception desk, whatnot. Face-to-face communication at the point of contact for a lot of businesses is very important, and some businesses have a very specific dress code. And Muslims are commanded to perform very specific acts of worship, one of which is called salat, which usually translates as prayers. And all adult Muslims are commanded to perform salat 5 times a day. If I went to my employer and says, I've just got to nip off for 10 minutes to pray to Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, he'd be like, you fucking what? Leave it out. Get back to that fucking grindstone, you cunt. If I were Muslim, it'd be, what, prayer? Oh, of course. We've set a little room up in back for you, yeah? Anything you need, let me know. Islam has to reform or go without. You can't expect the rest of society to go backwards to meet your needs if you aren't willing to modernise.
Mine of untapped talent that British businesses and organisations are missing out on.
If there's talent out there, businesses won't be missing out on it, let me tell you. Very naive to think that employers are stupid enough to miss out on talent that would benefit them greatly.
By not making sure this discrimination is tackled. And it's absolutely right that the government should redouble efforts and do more to help employers tackle this.
The government should do more to help employers tackle this. But the government uses force to make change. I mean, how's that going to help employers?
And take advantage of the fabulous talent that is out there. And, you know, with Muslim people more than twice as likely to be unemployed than non-Muslims, then that really is cause for concern.
Well, of course, there's some religious discrimination going on. 1 in 4, according to the report. Which is acceptable in my view, as Muslims' religion is more of a priority than the job they're doing. But it's not fair to put the burden on employers to tackle problems that exist in the Muslim community. The burden should be on those communities to make men and women more employable and more integrated if they want equality in the labour market.
One of the issues raised is what's called name-blind recruitment, where you effectively take somebody on because of their credentials without knowing what their name is.
Removing the name now. I mean, this is discrimination against business owners who can't be trusted to make business decisions without the state helping them through the barrel of a gun.
So this is an important part of how we can resolve the issue. The Chartered Institute of Personnel Development last year published research which showed that recruitment biases are very common. We all bring our biases to any decision.
You've brought bias into this too, that employers can't be trusted to run their own business. You believe employers should be nannied and told who they have to employ based on your view that Muslim labour is as valuable as non-Muslim labour. You see?
And so people tend to hire in their own image, mini-me's, people who are similar to them.
You have no perspective on life. Or you're forgetting that we're mammals who spent the entirety of evolution surrounded by other mammals that look like us. And those traits were favoured by natural selection for the survival of the pack. They're ingrained into us genetics. It's a subconscious thing, there's nothing sinister about it. And you're not going to stop it with suits and ties and pieces of paper and threats of force. It's not happening.
The research also shows that men tend to be favoured over women, and in fact if you submit the same CV with a typically white sounding name and a typically non-white sounding name, actually the one with the white sounding name will get invited for interview more times.
Will you do a report on Muslim businesses and Muslim managers to see if they discriminate against non-Muslims? Or is that racist?
So the idea of a name-blind process is to take that bit of bias out of it. It's not a silver bullet, it won't resolve it on its own, but it can get some candidates who would have been screened out by bias actually getting to that interview stage where they can then make their case and show what they can do.
Name bias. Well, there's a peaceful solution to that one. Change your name by deed-poll. It's a voluntary thing. There doesn't have to be a new law. Perfect.
Do we know how much that's actually being put into practice at this stage?
Well, I think it's not as much as it could be.
You would like it to go further?
Absolutely. I think employers should be encouraged to do this.
Employers should be encouraged to do this. You've got to love the word in there. What she's really saying is employers should be forced to do this. She'd love a new law, but it's a bit of a big ask. So, this is how it starts.
And Number 10 last year did have a summit to raise this issue and encourage it. It's something which I used to do in my office, and it can be as simple as photocopying and getting the marker pen out. It doesn't need to be particularly complex, but it is something which can help to just take away that bias, and having a very clear process. Asking all of the questions, interview the same to each candidate is another way of just taking out bias. So we also know that Muslim women, for example, are more than 3 times as likely as white women to be asked about their marriage and children. And of course, women often more likely to be asked about that than men.
Why can't we ask about family life? It's none of your business what attributes are favourable to an employer. Who do you think you are?
So there are things that employers can do, tangible things, to make their process fair.
I'll tell you what's fair. Leave us alone. We'll leave you alone. We won't come round your ass telling you who you can date, who you can marry, how many kids you can have.
But they also have to be developing a much more inclusive culture of valuing people as an individual rather than seeing people as Muslim or of a particular race or gender.
So employers are racist and misogynist and can't be trusted to employ the right people.
And in terms of speed of change, the committee talks about trying to make a change by the end of the year. Is that feasible?
Well, definitely there ought to be improvements by the end of the year, but this is obviously not a problem that's going to be solved within a few months.
Only a fraction of people see this as a problem. But vast swathes of people have to deal with the problem of you meddling and interfering. Piss off!
But hopefully the committee will be able to come back to this issue and have pressure on government, but also on employers to take real action.
OK. Jo Swinson, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Pressure, hey? Well, pressure requires force. I thought encouragement and help was the way you wanted to do it. Double think. They can blame religious discrimination some of the time and claim that it's a bad thing, but they won't address the influence the Islamic faith has and the subjugation of women by the Islamic faith and the legacy of that can't be wormed out of by some poorly designed report. Of course, there are some hard-working and dedicated Muslims out there that have put me to shame, but employers value people on dedication and passion and skills, something that most Muslim women don't have. I'm sorry, but those are the facts. By forcing employers, because that's where this is going to lead, to change the way they vet applications is going to create problems without solving the problem that you think you have. This article is just another white guilt-induced propaganda piece by the state. It offers nothing of any value to solve the problem of high Muslim unemployment. I'm sick of it. But you can stay tuned, you could subscribe to me for more content like this, and we're going to battle it together. Peace, love and Gandhi.